Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and I'm here with Michael Braidwood, General Manager of Education City Golf Club in Qatar. And welcome to our third in a series of the AGIF Sustainability webinars. In the coming months, every week, we will be delivering webinars on turf and club management with industry leaders to supply career building information for professionals in Asia. The Asian Golf Industry Federation is a non-for-profit federation comprising of suppliers and facilities in the turf, club, and sports industry. And the federation focuses on building sustainable practices, both in terms of environmental and economic aspects throughout the Asia-Pacific region. We believe that the key in development of a sustainable industry is the education and empowerment of professionals like you in the industry, and that's why we're running these series of events. We have developed the AGIF certificate in greenskeeping, which is supported by the RNA and 5 AGIF member organizations. The CIG focuses on development of the skill set of greenskeeper and turf professionals throughout Asia. We also focus on club management education as partner of the Club Management Association of America, and we rolled out education in Asia for the pathway for the Certified Club Manager degree. The CCM is considered the gold standard in club management industry globally, and managers in Asia can now achieve the necessary education here in Asia as a result of this partnership. It is vital to have strong partnerships in implementing education throughout Asia, and our education is recognized for credits from the PGA of America, the PGA of GB in Ireland, the PGA of Australia, the PGA of Japan, the Club Management Association of America, and the GCSAA. Due to the travel restrictions from COVID-19 pandemic, webinars are the only way we can continue to deliver education at the moment. We'll resume education and events when travel restrictions ease and keep you posted on the progress on that. Over the last few months, we've spent a lot of time improving our digital offering and membership benefits. For more information, please log on to www.agif.asia, as well as our LinkedIn and Facebook company pages. Please also sign up for our weekly newsletter to join the 10,000 industry contacts receiving weekly industry update. Lastly, the AGIF is a not-for-profit federation, and now more than ever, we rely upon membership dues to operate. So if you like what we do, or if you think that your facility or company will benefit from communicating with the industry, please note that our membership benefits are substantial and can be seen on our website under AGIF membership benefits. Please take a look, and if you're already an AGIF member, thank you very much. Your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. We'd like to thank the sponsor of today's webinar. Without their support, we would not be able to run these events. They are Jonas Club Software, proud member of the AGIF. We look forward to seeing the Jonas team out here in Asia as soon as travel restrictions are eased. On to some housekeeping issues. Michael will present on the topic for roughly 60 minutes. And we'll have 30 minutes after that for a Q&A. The chat buttons are on throughout, so please feel free to ask questions, which we can then voice to Michael during the Q&A session. There's also a link to sign up for AGIF mailing list if you're not already on it, so please fill that out in your convenience to receive more information from the AGIF. Now on to the main event, and to introduce our speaker, Michael Braidwood CCM is the General Manager of Education City Golf Club, and was responsible for the pre-opening of the club, which opened in January 2019. He is now responsible for the operation of the club, which is a landmark project for Qatar and the world of golf, offering a revolutionary and holistic approach to growing the game of golf. It comprises of a range of short game formats, state-of-the-art learning and practice facility, and an 18-hole championship golf course, a 6-hole course, and a 9-hole par 3 course, all designed by two-time major winner Jose Maria Olazabal. A certified club manager and a PGA master professional, Michael is a very experienced golf industry professional. Michael has solid educational background and qualified to be assessor for the PGA Director of Golf Program in 2012, and is a regular presenter and Club Manager Association of Europe Management Development Programs. Michael's previous experience have seen him holding the following positions: Director of Education for the Club Managers Association of Europe, where he is responsible for the delivery of their education programs and 2 levels of certification, the Club Management Diploma and the Certified Club Manager Operation Directors for Bremer Golf Development, where he was responsible for all Bremer Golfs that were operational, and this saw him in working projects in Russia, Bulgaria, Bahrain, Oman, and the UK. Prior to that, Michael was the CEO of Bahrain International Golf Course Company, overseeing the business units and representing their interests in the RIFA Views development project before being promoted to CEO. Michael was general manager of the RIFA Golf Club Bahrain as well. This semi-private golf club hosted multiple events, including the European Senior Tour, the Tour Championship, and on 2 occasions, the PGA Pro Captain Challenge on 6 occasions. Before moving to Bahrain, Michael was a golf professional at the Glen Eagles Hotel in Scotland. He is married to Judy and has 2 children, Ben and Hannah. His hobbies include golf, cooking, exercise, and family. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. There we are. Are we okay with that, Eric?
Looks good to me. How does it look out there? Good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Eric, and thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. Great pleasure to speak to everyone out in Asia. So this session I'm going to start off with is usually done in the classroom, so it's usually a little bit more interactive. So some of the interactive elements I'll ask you to do as homework, and then it's up to you whether you do it or not. But the session today is called "What Gets Measured Gets Done," and it was a phrase I heard from a lady called Helen Bennett, who used to teach on the program that CME offer, the management development programs. And effectively what it means is that if you are measuring things and checking up on them, generally you or your team will do them. And that's, I think, an important element of leadership and management at a club, is that you do make your team are delivering on a daily basis. So it links into sorry, Eric, what are you seeing there? Are you seeing a full screen or a part screen?
I'm seeing part screen with our faces on the top.
Right. I'm seeing, that's better. Right. So it links on to performance management, which really as club leaders, that's our ultimate responsibility. We need to get our teams performing in order to achieve our business goals or our goals that our owners set us. So a lot of this can actually be instinctive. So I'm just going to open up with a simple question: who runs? Anyone there runs? You can put your hand up. I can't see you, but I would imagine a lot of you do try and keep fit in this era. And what do you do? Generally, you'll keep a time. That's what you do. You'll run, you'll check your time. And why do you do that? Because you want to improve. So it's really a customary thing of the human nature. We're continually wanting to improve ourselves. Same thing applies. Who plays golf? There's probably more golfers than runners listening today. And again, what do? You keep a scorecard. And why do you do that? Because again, you want to check if you're making progress. And the scorecard picture there's not to reassure you. But just for a couple of minutes now, what I'd like you to do, if you've got pen and paper at your desks or at home, wherever you are, let's just take 5 minutes to think about what scores you need to measure and maximize performance in your business and list them. So these are things that, as club leaders, what do you think is important to measure on a day-to-day basis? So I'll just leave you for 5 minutes and let you do some work and scribble those down.
We should have figured out some hold music.
Yes, you can sing, Eric.
No, you don't want that.
Okay, so with any luck, you've got a sizable list in front of you, and sometimes, generally what I would do and encourage you to do would be doing this in teams, because you can spar off each other and get some ideas. But just in the few minutes there, I just wrote a list myself of some of the things I would want to look at from a measurement standpoint of view. So just on my list, and tick them up if you've got the same, but profit and loss, number of rounds of golf, customer satisfaction, number of sales calls that my sales team are making, number of sales conversions. Maybe they're making a lot of calls, but they're not converting much. Number of likes on Facebook posts or other social media measurement metrics. Speed of greens might be important to you. Pace of play from a customer satisfaction standpoint of view. Average check in the restaurants. Number of complaints. Number of service recoveries. Number of event sign-ups. And then on to things like maybe asset downtime for your facility management team. Are assets taking a long time to fix? Or maybe on the golf course maintenance, do you have too many machines sitting in the workshop and not out on the fairways preparing the golf course? So there's a lot of measurements you can do. And really the next question I often ask myself is ask why? Why would we want to measure them? You need to have good reason. I remember years and years and years ago, I think it was at Gleneagles, an old boss of mine said to me, do you think anyone reads the reports that you're sending? I said, well, I don't know, but I'm sending reports up into the hotel. And he said, well, don't send it for a week and see if anyone asks you for the report. Because sometimes you're just doing reports for the sake of reports, and sometimes you're measuring things for the sake of measuring them. So make sure you ask why, and you've got to have good reason. It should be purposeful and should be able to help your business. So what to do now off your list is then just rank them in importance. And I always look at this philosophy that you can't take too much on board. So get things down in order of importance, what's important to you, because at least if you can do the main ones, you're well on your way to achieving. If you try and take too much on board, you would possibly fail. So how can you take these measurements into your already busy day? So here at Education City Golf Club, we adopted a system that was developed in the 1990s called Balanced Scorecard. And I'm going to show you a short video on how it works.
The Balanced Scorecard is a strategic performance management tool developed by Dr. Robert Kaplan and Dr. David Norton, who introduced the methodology in 1992 through an article published by the Harvard Business Review. They examined the most successful businesses across the world and found similarities in the way they were run. Each of the top-performing businesses had a very clear vision and strategy that was managed across the key areas of finance, customer, internal processes, and knowledge and growth. Kaplan and Norton formalized this structure as the Balanced Scorecard, creating perspectives based on these key areas, thus providing the balance between financial and non-financial measures. The financial perspective looks at top-level financial objectives and measures to answer the question, how do we look to our shareholders? The customer perspective focuses on customer satisfaction, answering the question, how do our customers see us? The internal processes perspective determines how well the business is running and whether we provide what our customers actually want. In other words, what should we be best at? The learning and growth perspective looks at people, their skills, training, leadership, and knowledge, answering the question, how can we improve and create value? The perspectives map out the company vision and strategy. This in turn can lead to the creation of a formal strategy map. That is, the company strategy stated in simple terms in an easy-to-understand form based on the 4 Balanced Scorecard perspectives. Within each perspective comes the identification of a small number of strategic objectives, setting targets for the objectives, and then measuring against the targets on a regular basis to determine success or failure. Measurement is undertaken through performance measures. A performance measure should be one of a small number of measures designed to be understood easily and acted upon quickly. Much in the same way as a doctor or nurse will monitor pulse rate and temperature to determine the overall health of a person, with performance measures we are attempting to do the same for an organisation. Performance measures must contain both leading and trailing measures. All too often we concentrate on trailing measures. Why? Because they are easy to measure and they're accurate. If I want to lose weight, I get on the scales. This gives me proof positive if I have succeeded or not. It does not give me any help to succeed. If I plan to go for a series of runs and decide how much I'm going to eat, then I have put in place 2 leading measures that will help me succeed. Leading measures are harder to identify, but they are the only measures that can be influenced and therefore make a difference. It is better to focus on a small number of things that will influence change rather than so many that nothing gets achieved at all. It has been said, if your strategy has 3 objectives, you will succeed in all 3. If it has 4 to 10 objectives, you will succeed in 1 to 2. If it contains more than 10 objectives, you will succeed in none. A simple case of the law of diminishing returns. The balanced scorecard has become an extremely powerful tool to ensure alignment through strategy maps, improve communication through a common language, and ultimately lead to a better performing organisation that is in tune with its business strategy.
Okay, so that's a snapshot of what the balanced scorecard is. I've watched that video numerous times and I always pick up something new every time, but there's lots and lots of information online about the balanced scorecard, and you can pick up details on how to actually go through the process and set it up for your own business. But really, just to summarize what they're trying to say there is, for example, what would happen if you only focused on bottom line, which a lot of organizations do, and often in times of crisis, that's the main focus. Certainly in the manufacturing world, they often talk about killing the goose that laid the golden egg. Some companies will hammer their machinery until it's almost dead, and then it is dead, and then the cost to replace is huge, as opposed to having preventative maintenance programs on time. And that can be the same thing in the golfing world. You can have a very, very great solid golf course. You have relatively high maintenance budgets, but the reason you have high maintenance budgets is because you have a golf course of quality. You have a golf course of quality, you can then charge a higher price. So you've got to be very careful to get that balance right. Second one is, what if you only focus on customer satisfaction? That is great, and we all strive to have fantastic customer satisfaction. But if the customer are leading totally, what may happen? It could demoralize the staff. You may not be focusing enough on your own human capital. Or in the golf club world, you maybe have rings run around you by your customers because you're always looking at their satisfaction, whereas sometimes the customer isn't always right, and you have to manage and lead your club in a way that's right for the business as well as for the customer. Conversely, you might only focus on business processes. There's certain bureaucratic organizations there that are very stringent on their processes, but they don't look at the bigger picture, don't look at the customer journey and how that's impacting the internal and external customer. And then finally, if you only focused on human capital, great, you might have very, very happy team, but ultimately you might be missing other key facets, such as driving the business forward. So the whole premise of the balanced scorecard is to make sure that you're taking an even view across these 4 quadrants in order to achieve your business goals. So how to implement the balanced scorecard? It takes a bit of work. And so if you were in the midst of being extremely busy, if you had a major tournament coming up or a busy year, you would have to question yourself whether or not it's right for you to do. So do your research first to make sure that you have the necessary tools, the necessary people in place to make it work. And then quite simply, there's a process that you need to follow. It's a very healthy process because you get your team leaders together, you're discussing, you're debating, and they're buying into the process as they're forming your balanced scorecard. You need a champion behind it as well. So our head of HR here, he is taking the responsibility to gather all the data every month. So he actually produces the card at the end of the month. Each department are responsible for certain components of it, but he is the man that pulls in that information. So we have our scorecard each time. have a dashboard, because when you're reporting upwards, I know from my owners here at Qatar Foundation, they don't look at the details. So if I can just send them a screen with 4 dials on it, they can see at a glance how the business is sitting and where are we doing well. And then you need to weave it into everyday conversations, cross-reference it, train for it as well, so that your entire team, from the frontline operators right the way through the various departments, understand what the balanced scorecard is and why it's important to the organization. And so we introduce this very early on to any new team members. It gets introduced in the induction process, but then it's reminded continuously. It goes out in the staff newsletter, and then we have update and review meetings on certain elements if certain elements aren't hitting the right score on the scorecard. So this would be part of the practical exercise I'd get you to do if we were doing this in a sort of seminar type thing. So you should have a list of a number of measurements that you would like to take place in your organization. And then you would drop each of these measurements into one of the 4 boxes. So if I was looking at mine, for example, the list I just scribbled down when you were doing the same. So I've written down P&L. So that would obviously drop into the financial perspective. And then I've got customer satisfaction. That would drop into customer perspective. Number of sales calls, that could be financially related, or it could be a process related. And it's up to you how you would want to do that. Going further down, I've got number of complaints or service recoveries. So service recoveries is really a human development aspect of the business, and I would need to be training for that, and that would fall into the learning and development quadrant. So that would be what you'd want to do. And like I said, if you get back in your club environment and hold a meeting, you'll have a lot of different measurements you want to put in each quadrant, and then you have to distill them down to a manageable amount. So that's your homework for at this stage. You'd want to choose, well, you can choose all 4 quadrants, but when I do it in a classroom situation, I just do 1 quadrant to save time. Identify 4 things that are important to your organization within that quadrant, identify how you can measure those, and then set your targets. So I've sent Eric a template, and he'll send that out after this webinar. And that's what the template will look like. You've got your quadrant, and say it's financial, and your strategic objective would be to make profit. So your definition is straightforward. Your costs are going to be lower than your income, and your measurement is your P&L, and your target is plus X% over, or so many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you could then put other elements there from a financial perspective. We have here a care of asset, because our investors have spent huge money on building the facility, cost millions and millions of Qatari riyals, and we want to make sure that asset is very well preserved. So the objective there is to care of asset and have a preventative maintenance program in there. And then our measurements are, we have various audits that go on to ensure that the asset is getting cared for. And then the target would be an audit score of, say, 90% plus each time it goes on. So once you've done that, you then need to gather some of your measurement tools, and some of them you can do yourself, or you can reach out and get others to help you. So many of you may be familiar with 59 Club. I know that they're very strong in Europe, Middle East, I think are branching into Asia as well. And this is a company who does mystery shops on pretty much everything pertaining to the operation, the golf operation. And the great thing with 59 Club as well is they'll speak to you and say, what do you want measured? What do you not want measured? And they're continually adding to their product offering. Nowadays, of course, you can measure satisfaction on the guests on golf lessons, but I think there's something coming up from 59 Club about measuring the custom fit experience, since so many people are now getting into that. So it's an ever-expanding resource. It comes with an app, and they will do as many mystery shops as you like per annum, either monthly or every 2 months. but then you get a report card, and the report cards are really powerful because it's not your opinion versus your department head or your staff. It's a statement of fact that a customer has come in and experienced this, and there's a measurement and a score. And then they also measure you against someone you choose to be in your competitor set. So there may be a club close by, or there may be a club you aspire to be like. You can then get a measurement against them as to see how you're doing, and then you'll get that report, and it's very, very powerful tool for training. And then the great thing is you get the report, you train around the report, and then 2 months later you're getting another report. You should be seeing those areas of your business improve. So that's a great tool, and I'd highly recommend that. Other things you can do, and I'm sure you all do this, is you can send out your own satisfaction surveys. I think in modern day life, we get surveyed all the time, everywhere we go. So you've got to be careful that you don't swamp your members and your guests with too much. What we tend to do now is survey a quarter of our members every quarter. So we're only asking them once, and we're not asking everyone all the time, and then you tend to get a little bit stronger response. But survey tools are fantastic, certainly for guest satisfaction and for employee satisfaction. We do the same. We survey our employees every month, again, to just get a feedback on how they're feeling about working for us. And then you can go for the good old clipboard and paper and pencil. And these are two audits that I personally take responsibility for at Education City Golf Club. I do this every month. I do a facility audit, comprehensive, go around the entire facility, looking at it from an FM standpoint of view. And then I do the same on the golf course. I do a golf course audit. And we have 3 golf courses here. I don't do all 33 holes. I have my own methodology. I tell the superintendent it's random, but it is structured, so you could possibly guess which hole I'm going to go to next. But I'll measure 1 hole on the front 9, 1 hole on the back 9, 1 hole on the 6-hole course, 1 hole on the par 3 course, and all our practice facilities. And then there's a score there. And then another objective of mine then is I may have 12 or so comments on FM and 6 or 7 comments on the golf course, and I'll take the responsibility to follow up and make sure they're attended to by the time that the next audit comes around. So many, many measurement tools that you can use, but you need to have all these in place. So moving on to it then, this is what one of our quadrants would look like. And this is the customer perspective, and this is the sort of goals that we set out for ourselves. So there was, through our team meetings, we felt that from a customer perspective, hospitality experience was key. Home from home, we live in a country here with a majority of the population are expats. They're not in their home country. So we recognize people are looking from a home from home. Transparency is important to us, and inclusiveness is important for us. So then we then define them there. So as an example, home from home, it's comfortable, it's relaxing, it's fun, it's a caring environment. It's the 3rd place. And Starbucks talk about the 3rd place. I think you have home, you have the office, and then Starbucks want their cafes to be the 3rd place. Well, we aspire to the same thing. And then how would we measure home from home? So that's on a retention basis. So are we seeing people retaining, renewing their memberships? Net Promoter Score is a one-touch, very effective scoring mechanism. Someone plays a round of golf or has a meal or something, and it's a simple question: would you recommend us to someone else, yes or no? So a Net Promoter Score is very good. Number of event sign-ups. If our events are boring and not engaging, you're not going to see many people sign up. Repeat business. If we've done a great golf day for Mercedes, they should be rebooking the next year. The other one is Linger time, which if any of you have come across Greg Patterson, who used to run the Newport Beach Club, and he's a great global speaker now at many of these seminars. He always talked about trying to get his members to stay in the club longer, because the longer they're in the club, the more money they're going to spend. We haven't quite managed to get the mechanism of how to measure linger time, but that's something on our radar to do that. And it may just come from number plate recognition. Does the car come in at 6 a.m. and does it leave at 4 p.m.? Wow, they've been here 8 hours. That's great. They're enjoying their golf. They've been eating. They've been taking lessons. Or are they in and out in a 4-hour period? And that's just in, play golf, out. So we want to understand linger time. So other elements you can take into consideration, but that's really what we want. And one of our things was transparency. We've got a lot of new golfers, people who don't understand the game, and we're trying to introduce the game to them. And we want them to feel that we are being very transparent with them. We offer different membership categories, and some people just come and say, I want to join the club. We won't take all their money or take a full membership fee if they can't play golf. We'll drop them into a category such as the driving range and par 3 course membership category first. It's less money for us, but it's the right product for them, and it gives them trust, and then they get their game to a certain level, then they'll take up a full membership. And then the other element as well is inclusiveness. You want to make sure there's something for everyone. Golf clubs often just get stuck on running golf tournaments and only golf tournaments. What about the members who don't like playing competitions? Can you lay on social golf? What about the members who don't want to play that much golf but want to meet people? Are you creating social events for them? So again, looking at different things like that to ensure that everyone's getting maximum value out of their membership. So you get your 4 quadrants like that, and then you can put it into a map like this. And this is where it gets really interesting, as how it can intertwine into making it work. And so starting at the bottom, you've got your learning, growing, and human development perspective. So if you're looking after your team, we have a continuous culture of learning and development. We set ourselves a target of 120 training hours a month at the club across different departments. So if they're doing that, your staff are feeling empowered. If they're empowered, they're going to start making their decisions themselves and start to attend to attention to detail. Attention to detail can ease the customer journey, and so on and so forth. So each things are intertwined. MWR stands for morale, welfare, and recreation down the bottom right-hand corner. If you're keeping your morale of your staff and your welfare of your staff up, and you're creating recreational opportunities for them, they're going to perform better. Then you can recognize that performance and reward it. And again, that just works its way up, cascades up the table into better performance. So ultimately, you're going to hit your overall financial targets, and you're going to hit the vision that you set out to achieve right at the beginning. So then the dashboard, I don't know if there's many pilots listening this afternoon, but I would be freaked out if I had to look at that dashboard and understand it all. But generally, the pilot's only looking at 3 or 4 dashboards. They're looking at the navigation dial, they're looking at altitude, they're looking at the fuel gauge, and they're probably looking at a couple other key ones, and the rest are just there in the background. And that's the same as your balanced scorecard and at your club. There's a lot going on, but at a glance, if you were to send your board, your committees, or whatever, a one-pager, and they just glanced at the dashboard, they could see something like this, then they would know what's going on there. So this was a dashboard snapshot taken maybe a year ago or so. So from a shareholder financial perspective, we weren't hitting budget, we weren't hitting our financial targets. So that's sort of highlights that straight away. What are we doing about it? Customer satisfaction's pretty high, could be higher, but it's sitting in there. Process, we're a new organization, we're still finding our way. Is the customer journey right? Is the process behind the scenes right? Is it easy to purchase a pencil through procurement, or is it difficult? How our processes are getting better. And in human development, doing very well, getting high score of employee satisfaction, and we're hitting our numbers with training and development, which should impact us there. So that dashboard really helps us, and that on a monthly basis at a management meeting level, we know, or certainly I know, where I need to start focusing my attention if we're falling a little bit behind financially. I need to put my efforts there, but I know that the human development team are taking great care, so I don't need to think so much about that at this stage. So that's a little bit of a snapshot on what gets measured, gets done. and how we do it here at Education City with the balanced scorecard. But there's many, many other tools out there. All I would recommend is that you adopt one to make sure that you are having a balanced view across the 4 quadrants of your organization. So this then ties nicely into another element that we look at here, and I think they're very closely related, is attention to detail. And attention to detail, again, is used a lot in the business world. So I'm going to just run through a few slides and talk a little bit about that. So attention to detail is used in all sectors, but it is the ability to achieve thoroughness and accuracy when accomplishing a task. As many employees seek this skill, it's not surprising to see many students list on the resume that they have strong attention to detail. And then in business sense, attention to detail essentially means focus that is directed on multiple tasks or concerns that make up a larger task or concern. It's considered an asset for employees in almost any field. So many people include examples of their capacity for attention to detail in their resumes. Those who wish to cultivate this quality may be able to do so by making a few changes to their work routine. And synonyms, you'll see words here that jump out: accuracy, consistency, precision, rigor, carefulness, and such like. But it really is just doing a job very, very well. And you see it all the time, but you're maybe not aware of it. But you've got to get your frontline team seeing it and aware of it. And then it will make a big, big difference, and it'll make your job as a club leader easier as well. So why is it important? Well, discerning customers expect it. I once had the pleasure of playing golf at Glen Eagles when I worked there many years ago with a gentleman called Sir Jackie Stewart, who was a Formula One world champion in the past, and he also was a world champion in clay pigeon shooting. So this guy knew his stuff. And at that time, he sat on the board of directors for Rolex and for the Ford Motor Corporation. And he test drove every Ford vehicle that they produced. So be it a Ford Fiesta, or be it one of their huge articulated trucks. Because this guy had attention to detail, because when he was world racing champion in the early 1970s, the cars weren't built to the same specifications that they are now, and the safety wasn't so high. So if that car wasn't right, he would probably die taking it around the racing circuit. So his attention to detail was incredible. And I remember we were playing the new PGA course where they played the Ryder Cup a few years ago, and he got to the third green and looked back and he said to me, look at that. And I said, what? I thought he was pointing at the majestic view down one of the valleys that was just beyond us there. And no, he had spotted in the relatively close foreground ground that over the trees, you could actually see the top of a petrol station. So you could see the petrol station hoardings. And he said, we don't come and spend 5-star money at Glen Eagles to see a petrol station when we're out playing golf. You're going to have to get trees planted there to shield that because it's ugly. And that was the sort of detail that he was looking at. It leads to the development of great reputation, and that's your brand value. If your facility delivers attention to detail, then your brand value will go up. It leads to more efficiently run organization, and it keeps the team focused. And interestingly enough as well, it's good for your health, your safety, your security, and your environment. Just very good back of house housekeeping, keeping a facility sharp and tidy will benefit all round. So what you can do yourself, you'll know this, you know yourself, your customers every day of your life, and there's organizations you gravitate to because they do things well. You may not be aware of it, but that's why you do it. So you can name some organizations that do attention to detail well. What is it they do? And it's been referenced in some books that I've read as world-class basics. These are just basic things, but a lot of organizations just can't do them. But the ones that do them really well. So I've got just a couple of case studies here, 3 actual facts about attention to detail. So a bit of promotion to the country I live in, Qatar Airways, who I think their tagline is the world's only 5-star airline. And they do live up to their tagline, and they win many, many awards. So what is it that they do, or what is it that I've observed when using Qatar Airways? Is one, well-trained and immaculate staff great discipline. And we hear stories, obviously, living in the country of staff getting disciplined or staff even getting terminated because they're not upholding the great standards there. But if you fly Qatar Airways, the air crew are fantastic and extremely well trained and well turned out. Consistency, when you go on the plane, it is consistently set up time and time again. Even the music is the same when you come on. That music is subliminally selling you their branding message there. And again, their in-flight delivery is extremely strong. And I've watched that, it's consistent every time. Strong loyalty programs, so they get their customers to become loyal to them, but then they recognize their customers and they reward their customers. And if you're on their loyalty program and you tell them your preferences, if you fill out your profile fully, they know who you are and they'll start sending you related offers. So if you say you're, for example, interested in golf and you lived in the region, they may then promote that they've got an event going on in Qatar, would you like to fly in for it? Or they're supporting a golf tournament in London and there's a benefit for being a privileged club member to go to the tournament. So they're recognizing and rewarding their customers. And then it's consistent on-brand messaging. Again, everything they do, they've got obviously a very strong brand team and making sure that the brand is upheld to the highest throughout. Others are strong, and I'm sure some of you have experienced Ritz Carlton. Ritz Carlton are right up there as one of the leading hotel providers. And again, what is it that they do? So first of all, they've created their own mantra. You could call it your tagline or your mantra, but it's ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. So as a member of their team, how do you feel when you're referenced as a lady and a gentleman as opposed to a member of staff? You're going to up your game anyway as a result of being referenced that way. They have rigorous training and training schemes, the 12 service value, the credo, the 6 diamond and such like. So when you start to work for Ritz Carlton, you're trained, you'll see on the next slide, or one of the next slides, they don't recruit just anyone. They're only going to take the best. They take the best and then train them to be even better. They have a daily lineup. So in each department, all the staff line up and are inspected to make sure that they are adhering to the uniform code. The daily lineup will give an opportunity to inform them of what's going on, which guests are in-house, what events are going on, which VVIPs are going to turn up, etc. And talent acquisition, I read a report recently that when they advertise jobs, only 2% get through. So they really are rigorous in their selection process, which I believe is one of the #1 keys to a successful organization. If you get your selection process right, you're halfway there. You need to get the right people on the bus. And then they're empowered problem solvers. They are all given up to a certain budget to solve problems. They don't need to seek the support of a manager. So if something goes wrong in the restaurant, the servers are empowered to take it off the bill, replace it, do something to make sure that the customer goes away fully satisfied. One of my favorites is Disney, and there's Disney's dotted around the world. I've been fortunate to go to one in Orlando 3 times with my family. Really enjoyed it, and you're mesmerized by how quality the whole place is, how clean it is, how great the staff are, how slick it is, because it's a big business. They're in the business of moving people around, and there's hundreds of thousands of guests every day, and they get them around these parks with minimal hassle. And even when you're queuing, you're entertained, so you're engaged when you're queuing. So I was fortunate enough at one of the CMMA World Conferences, they had a speaker there, Dennis Snow, who'd worked for the Disney organization for 40 years. And he gave some tips about Disney's philosophy and such like, and little moments of wow add up. And he put this simple chart up here that he referenced to. And so the bottom 2 things are accuracy and availability. And I take this into the golf context. Accuracy for me would be booking the correct tee time or spelling the guest's name correctly. It's not difficult to do, but you've got to do it. The other element is availability. We can't be going out selling more and more memberships or more tea times if we're already full. So you've got to create availability. So you've got to be yielding your tea sheets well. You've got to be putting people in the right place. And he says there's no bonus points for this. This is basics you've got to do. Then he goes on to wow opportunities. And he actually referenced a story which was out with the Disney Corporation. It was one of his own self-experiences when he was traveling. And he was traveling somewhere in the United States, and his luggage hadn't arrived, and he had an important meeting the next day. And the hotel he checked into, he referenced that to them, and they said, okay, there's a good suit shop just across there, and there's a shoe shop down the road. He said, fantastic. So he went out and bought himself a suit. And then he went to the shoe shop, and he was eyeing up a pair of shoes. And the server said to him, oh, you're interested in those shoes? And he says, yeah, I really like them. Now, they were the most expensive shoes in the shop. So typically, you would expect the server to sell him the most expensive shoes in the shop. And she said, hold on a minute, sir. I think before you purchase these shoes or try them on, let me see you walk. So she made him walk up and down the shop a couple of times. And she said, those shoes wouldn't suit you. They're not suited for the way you walk. Here's a pair of shoes that I think would be much more suited to your walking style. He didn't even realize he had a walking style. He tried them on. They were the most comfortable shoes he'd ever had. And in fact, he'd had lower back pain as well. After 2 weeks, he said his lower back pain had disappeared because she'd prescribed a better pair of shoes to help him walk. Those shoes were half the price of the shoes he was looking at originally, but she'd engaged with him and created a partnership through advice. And as a result, people only ever go and buy his shoes from that store now. And he says now he travels thousands of kilometers to make his annual shoe purchases because they've made such a great recommendation. And so that has come into forming a partnership. And to him, that was a wow experience. And that lady had created a wow opportunity, whereas she could have just made a quick sale and be done with it. So very, very interesting stuff and advice from a 40-year veteran at Disney. On to the next slide is Japanese word Kaizen. So I'm sure many of you have come across Kaizen. I think it came about in a lot of the manufacturing processes. I think the Toyota Corporation adopted Kaizen, but it's the term meaning change for the better or continuous improvement. And it's the philosophy of continually improving your processes in your operation and involve all the employees. So I reference this a little bit here at work as well, that we do a great event. I often use the terminology WWW-EBI. So WWW stands for what went well, but EBI is even better if. So it was a great event, but next year, our customers are going to expect something a little bit better. So I get my team to write down even better what could have made that event better, and we know that for next time. But Kaizen's broken down into the 5 S's: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. So I think Kaizen's a beautiful thing to be able to have within your organization that really goes right back to the early reference I made to what gets measured gets done, and to ensure that if you're doing audits and checking, this certainly will help make sure that your business is very, very sharp. It's got a lot of attention to detail. And as a result of that, you're not going to have any, you'll have fewer accidents, you'll have fewer downtime by equipment failing, and your brand value will increase because people will see you as a sharp operator providing beautifully turned out facilities. So that was just a little bit of a snapshot on attention to detail, which I felt was nicely related to what gets measured gets done. And really what I do for attention to detail, I do a balanced scorecard and I ensure regular audits. And I have dedication to training and development, and that helps the attention to detail. And what's good for me is I'm seeing staff members here doing things instinctively now. I don't need to go out and say, clean that, sharpen that, make that straighter. They're doing it already, which is great. So you've got to ask yourself, what do you do? Now, finally, I've just got a very, very short video to show from the All England Tennis Club. If you like tennis, you'll see the Wimbledon Championships are played there every year. It's a magnificent facility, and they really, really benchmark themselves against the best events in the world, and this is how they do it.
The list is something that begins during the championships, a list of all the things we can do better. It goes right to the heart of not accepting second best. We don't really mind where we get the feedback from. If it's something that can't be dealt with immediately, then it goes on the list. Every single line has to have a comment by next year's championships. The moment you are satisfied and think that you can't improve on it, that's the moment you've got a problem. We just want it to be better every day and every year.
So to me, that encapsulates attention to detail. I love the point that he makes that he doesn't mind where it comes from. And so it's so important to survey your customers and get your customers giving you feedback, because they are telling you what will help you become better every day. And if you see the tagline there, the championship at Wimbledon, in pursuit of greatness, I think if you can follow that and have great attention to detail, your facility will become great. So a little bit of homework on that one is, and I love taking photographs of good things and also bad things, but if you were to just take a tour of your facility and took 6 photos, 3 things of exceptional attention to detail and 3 of room for improvement, encourage your team to do it, and then you're starting to create your own list like at the All England Tennis Club, and that will then get you right on the journey of having a very, very sharp operation, which will improve your brand value. So that's all from me. Thank you. And I think there may be some questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike. I mean, very, very comprehensive, and look forward to getting you live at one point in time. I think we had you booked for India in May or April, May of this year, and we hope to get that going again for a BMI there. But we do have a few questions, so let me take a look here. First, we have a couple of very similar, I guess, questions I'll read together. One is from James Shippey in Thailand. He sends his regards, and Paul in Alhambra. But first, James is, could you ask Mike how he motivates his more junior team members that may not fully appreciate and understand measured performance? And Paul asks very similarly, what tips do you recommend for getting your team to see it, considering some of their backgrounds have never seen a golf course or a 5-star hospitality asset before? This sort of similar questions. Yeah.
The motivation one is, I think a lot of the people that come and work at the clubs and the frontline clubs are away from home. The lower paid workers, they're nervous. They've got a lot of responsibility on their shoulders because they're out earning and they're fending for their families. And I often think, and I think back to sport, that if you're nervous, you're not going to perform quite as well. So you've got to give your frontline team members the confidence. They should, if they're nervous when you approach them as the boss, what do they feel like when the customers are coming and they're not going to perform to their best? So you've got to get them reassured that they're doing the right thing. So again, it boils down a lot. First of all, selection's key. You've got to get the right people in the right place, but then you've got to keep training them and retraining and then reassuring them. So I go out a lot and I'll see them and I will, you pick up on things, but I pick up on things and I'll do it in a manner that makes them feel more comfortable than nervous. And then they get it, but then you compliment them on the great things that have been done. So it's more a case of catching people doing things right. They'll remember it rather than catching them things doing wrong. And again, it's just regular training. So that's one of the ethoses of our club here is regular training. So our operations team, our director of golf or golf operations manager, are doing mini training sessions weekly on any matter. And if something's not gone quite right, you just bring the team back into the room and say, look, guys, this, on Friday morning you were terrible. The cart setup wasn't the way it normally is, and just go through it again and again and again. And that seems to be working for us. And the motivation thing is, I think they're away from home. We try our best to keep them happy. If you can do some golf events with them or some other sport events. We had our greenkeepers out playing cricket the other day on one of our turf nurseries. They're just wanting good shelter, they're wanting good food, they're wanting a safe environment and to be treated fair and with respect. And that goes an awful long way.
So using measuring is a way to set objectives, and positive feedback, certainly at the start, is helpful, and maybe ease into a little bit more critical feedback once they become used to the measurement would be.
Yeah. And look, ultimately, if they continue to fail, you're going to get frustrated and they're not doing it, then they'd have to leave. But if you've recruited correctly in the first instance, that's unlikely. And then it's just a sort of commitment. It's a commitment to training, and it's not as if they don't know the stuff. So then you're stronger because you can say, look, I've trained you on this. You've seen the SOP. You've been through what is it that they're not getting. And then it did then boil down to just blatant laziness and lack of motivation. Then that's a problem. But you can't leave anything to it. I don't know if you can see this, but we have the little booklets. The team come round, and again, this is trying to catch them doing right. So well done, you went over and above the call of duty. And if I see someone doing something, I'll write it down, I'll drop it in a box in HR, and periodically we have a little celebration. They win a box of chocolates or something. Just a couple of bits to be recognised that they've done something well. And if you told them they've done it well once, they're going to go, right, the boss likes that, I'm going to do it again. So just keep reinforcing the good things that they do.
That's nice. I've got a question from Stephen Thilke in Malaysia. How do you ensure lower management at all levels consistently manage the measurement performances? GM can't do it all. The middle managers are notoriously poor at performance managing subordinates.
Yes. So again, it backs down to training. So the balanced scorecard has helped us a lot. So we split ours into 4 quadrants, and then we had 4 measurements in each quadrant, so 16 things, and then they're spread around the team. I don't measure them all. Like I said, I think there's only 2. I take responsibility for the facility audit, and I take responsibility for the golf course audit. Other measurements are done by other members of the team, and just if you let it drop 1 month, it's not going to happen again. So I would say probably the number 1 attribute for myself is persistence. I just keep going at something, and eventually they're going to, he's not going to give up on this, is he? I better do it. Or go, oh, he's not going to give up on this, I better leave because I can't be bothered doing it. So it can work that way, and it's just consistently reinforcing. And again, it links back to training, but it links back that it needs to be important as well. They need to understand the whole picture. Hence the reason some of the slides there I've shown you today, they get shown in induction, and they can understand why not setting the staging area up in the morning correctly. What impact does that have through the whole organization? So they're starting to understand the repercussions of them not doing something, and then that's it. So from a senior manager to a middle manager, the senior manager needs to just be persistent and say, where is it? I want it, I want it, I want it, and I get it, and it's diaritized. And maybe if they have their own computer or laptop, it pings up in an Outlook reminder, Monday, give the boss this report, and you'll get it. You will get it, but you have to be persistent, because if you give up, that's what they want you to do. They want you to give up on it. They've got low standards, so they want you to drop to their low standards, and then they'll get away with it. But if you don't give up, then they have to.
Sink or swim.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Mike McKenna in Thailand. Hi, Mike. Great talk so far. He said, when I worked at Loch Lomond, the GCM team always talked about, quote, only measure what needs to be measured, unquote. I think it's a great point. Sometimes we can get lost in too much data. Focusing on priority areas will have a larger impact on the quality of the product for sure.
I would agree with that, and that's why I said, I think on the second or third slide, why? Why are you measuring that, and what's important? So my philosophy is that I see it from a customer standpoint of view. The members who are playing or the visitors who are playing, they don't really care about the soil temperature, and they don't really care about the pH in the soil. They don't. They just want to see the surface. They want to see the bunkers rate, the green smooth, they want to hold more putts. So that's what I try and do. If the superintendent, it is important to them for measuring it, but they don't need to report to me on it. These guys go out every day with a pogo stick, which is pretty decent attention. I think it does moisture, temperature, and salinity of the greens. And then that means they can just set the irrigation to give the greens exactly what it needs. But if they see salinity going up, they get nervous because we're working with poor water here. Then they know to program in some calcium materials. I don't need to know that, and the customer doesn't need to know that. So you're absolutely right there. But from our perspective, in our balanced scorecard, we're really looking at the customers paying a lot of money to play a quality golf course. So the measurements there are customer satisfaction, and I then reinforce that through an audit. And I want to make sure the course looks good on the top. I'm not out there probing and measuring soil temperatures, and I'm not measuring clipping yields and stuff like that. That's for the superintendent to take care of.
Thanks. I have a question from Ray Stopforth, who's in Kuala Lumpur. I believe you know Ray.
I know Ray. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Mike. Do you know of any clubs who have implemented the Kaizen philosophy? Is this practice in hospitality industry, or is it as it is more production oriented?
I personally don't know of any. I could probably find out. I know people reference it. I reference it a lot, but I don't go through the whole process of it. I just really like the saying of striving for continuous improvement. And again, that very last video I showed from the All England Tennis Club was Richard Lewis, the chief executive, said the moment you stop and think you've got there, then you're on a losing battle. And in this region, I think Paul from Alhambra will say this, that Sheikh Mohammed Maktoum talks about in pursuit of excellence, there is no finish line. So I think that's key, and you've got to just keep at it. I don't know the answer to your question, Ray. There probably is some, and I think look, different club leaders just look at different things to keep themselves engaged and keep their team engaged. We chose balanced scorecard. Others may have Kaizen. I was chatting the other day to Darshan Singh about Six Sigma, and then the lean process, which definitely came from manufacturing. And there's learnings for it, and we're not in a manufacturing business, but there is certainly processes aligned to manufacturing that are important, and how we can learn and improve what we do with our operations.
I have a question from David Ross in the Philippines, and it says, "Thank you, Michael." And as a question, where do you see yourself ending your career?
I have no idea. You know, it's interesting. I get asked that question a little bit, because previously I was doing similar to what you're doing, Eric, for the Club Managers Association of Europe, and I got offered this job here in Qatar to open a fabulous new facility, and then we've got FIFA 2022 coming up, which I think, I don't know, there must be people listening that have worked close to a major sporting event, either the Olympics or the World Cup football or something. But I think that's going to give a real buzz to the country, and it's going to be a really exciting time. So I'm intrigued to see what happens in the run-up to that event, because that'll be really good. And then I don't really know. Sometimes I have yearnings to go home and work in the UK. But then again, at the moment, the UK is not that an attractive place because of what's happening to the economy, but that's happening all over the world. And I only really visited Asia for the first time properly. I popped in that Asia a couple of times last year with the PGA had a conference in Thailand, and I really enjoyed that. And I think probably one of the important things for me now is I've worked an awful lot at places where golf isn't in demand. So it's very challenging, and I think Ray Stopforth and maybe Paul down at Alhambra as well will vouch for this, that you're having to do both things. You're having to obviously set up and lay out top class facilities, but you've got to create demand. We are cultivating a market from not a lot here, and that's tough. And we are then trying desperately to get the local community, local Arab community engaged in golf. And really, sport's not their culture, and we've got to get to be their culture. And then we become dependent on expats. The expats come and go. You put a lot of effort into sell a membership, and then a year later they say they're leaving, and so you're having to start again. Whereas I think Asia is more demand-led. There's a lot more demand for golf in Asia, and it looks attractive. The Asian people have really love golf. They've taken to golf, and it's a growth sport. So I wouldn't mind having a crack at working at a facility where I don't need to worry about where my next customer's coming from, but I would just want to make sure that we're keeping standards really high and providing a fantastic experience for the customers we have. I think that would be nice.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation out here. In some places you have overbuilt, so you're really in a competitive situation. So it would be the other side, is how do you keep and retain and attract within that facility.
And that's good, because at least you've got a market where there's enough golfers. You're then working on market share. Qatar, there's not a market share to steal. I don't want to take any to the neighboring club. We need to double the number of golfers. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Gregoire Solis. Gregoire, I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correctly. Hello, Michael. CRM is a big tool for measurements. Does a specific CRM support exist for golf clubs?
It does, and I'm a little bit naive on this. I would say the sponsor of today's webinar would probably have a CRM component to the management system there, and it really depends on how you use it. I know Gregory is into sales, so he will use it, or probably previously in his work been using it from a sales tool. Other clubs use it from a guest preferences, like I referenced Ritz Carlton. They carry a huge amount of data on their clients, and I think philosophy is, if you stay in the Ritz Carlton in London and you open your bedroom window because you like to have fresh air, and then you fly to San Francisco, they should be able to pick up that you like to have fresh air and set your room up, or they'll recognize that you get into the bed from the left side as opposed to the right. That gets it down to the real finite detail, and that's something I think all of us in the golf operations are aspiring to, is to understand and know our customers a little bit better and have a bit more data on it. And yes, there is systems. So Jonas will do it, and other golf-related software suppliers will do it, as do the likes of Zoho and Salesforce as well. So it's something that I don't think the golf industry is as far advanced on as the hotel industry is, but it's certainly something that's on everyone's radar now.
We have another question from Ross Grieve in Hong Kong. Hi, Mike. When conducting a golf course audit, are you providing feedback to your course manager in the form of percentage scores per area of the course, i.e. greens, or providing a specific priority list of things to be improved upon? In other words, what format are you providing feedback to your course manager?
So I've got the audit done. I'm just going to pick one out here just to remind me of exactly what I do. But I give it as a total score. So you'll be pleased to hear that last month the guys got 90%. It's the highest score they had, apart from when they had the Qatar Masters, which you would imagine you have the golf course up there. And the Qatar Masters, we threw more resources at it, so you would expect a higher score. So the team are doing really well. I do it as a total score, but what I do is practice facilities, one hole on the 6-hole course, one hole on the 9-hole course, front 9 and back 9 on the 18-hole course. When I'm looking at the 18-hole course and I do one hole in the front, one on the back, I get nervous if the scores are big difference. If I got, say, 90% on the front 9 and 78% on the back 9, that would ring alarm bells to me, because then I would think, oh, there's an inconsistency problem here. But generally, there's an issue there. For me, our flagship course is the 18-hole course. So if that's lying third, I'm nervous. And we invest more money in the 18-hole course, so it should be sitting higher. I could pull it out per component, but it's too complex. It just gives a nice round number. I say, right, the month of September, the golf courses are sitting at 90%. Our short game area got hit with a little bit of disease, and often the superintendent takes his eye off the ball and then doesn't put quite as much attention. That gets a little bit of a lower score, whereas I'm on him all the time saying, if you think of the customer journey, someone arrives at 5:30 a.m. to go and play 18 holes at 6 a.m. tee time. That bunker, the practice bunker should be raked, the greens should be rolled, because that's the journey they're taking. And the guys sometimes forget and they'll cut them later on the day and they'll cut them at 10 a.m. You think, well, that's wrong. Get your sequencing right. So we'll bring it up on that. And then the other thing is just a list of photos of just little things I've seen as I've gone around. And I'll do that at other times when I play golf, but this is more the formal one. And then we sit down and we just run through it. And it works really well. It's a nice just measurement. And then I can set the superintendent's annual objective of saying, I would like the average score on the golf course audit to be 87% or 85%. He hits it in the next year, say, what do we need to do to get another percent up? And it works really well. But again, it's I got this idea of a guy in America, and I think he did all 18 holes every month. That would take ages for me. This takes me about 3 hours to do, and it takes me about an hour to write the report up, and it's another hour just discussing it with the course manager or superintendent.
Thanks. On that topic, I think either yesterday or today is Thank Your Superintendent Day. So all of you facilities, if you haven't done already, I've been remiss at the AGIF. I'm about to send out a post on thanking all our superintendents and greenkeepers for the wonderful job that they do, supported with their teammates and general management and golf operations. Mike, thank you very much. I'd like to thank you again. As I said before, we look forward to getting you out into Asia to deliver some BMI and other education. We'll definitely make that happen.
Excellent. Really, thanks for the opportunity, and thank you for the questions, and nice to hear from some old friends, or friends of old, I should say, and hope to renew some acquaintances next time we go over to Asia. Thank you. Good.
I'm just going to do a little follow-up. I'd like to thank all attendees for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this. And just for your planning, we have a webinar next week. We have Roger Gutch, Director of Golf from Operations, coach at Akaza Golf and Rocket Club. You might know Roger. He educated us in, I believe, in several Philippines, Indonesia, etc. He is Shankin Bay, so he's worked out in Asia, and he's going to be talking about thatch and biomass management. Maybe it's good for some of the general managers to sit in on this one. Then we're just confirming our October schedule. We look to get Jack Chung from Royal Selangor, Eric Rule from Hazelton Golf Club, and Dr. Tom Nicolai from Michigan State to talk about various different items. But all the information for that is available on the website. And that's it for now. And thanks very much for joining us, and have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Eric. Bye.
Okay, cheers.